Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Racha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And in light of the events, pretty much the whole world was watching what would take place last night, as Trump had given a deadline of 8 p.m. for a deal to be made, some ceasefire agreement between Iran and the U.S., or else they would, as he put it, an entire civilization will die. Okay, and so unironically or unsurprisingly, a couple hours before the deadline, they somehow come to this 2-week ceasefire. All right, they scramble, they put something together, and then boom, they're like, okay, we've averted impending doom, and then everybody's happy, right? Markets are going up, and people are, oil started tanking, the oil prices started tanking, and everybody's happy. Unfortunately, when you have situations like this, in my opinion, this was really all just psychological warfare. The U.S. and Israel are not going to stop. Okay, it's not in their plans to stop. They cannot continue with what they actually want to do in their plans so long as Iran is in the state that it's in and the rest of the world is in the state that it's in. Okay, prime example, Israel afterward went on to proceed to attack Lebanon. And Iran says, no, you can't do that. In fact, let's read a few of these headlines here, and we'll get into it as we read it. But that ceasefire isn't looking too good. Okay, it looks like more of just an extension of the deadline, really. But both sides declare victory in a situation where they were both opposed to each other, right? So one side is saying, "Oh, we declared victory because in our minds, our stipulations have been met." The other side says the same thing, but you had two different stipulations. So how does that go? In Israel, they have their mind of their own. They do what they want to do. Don't forget their motto is, was it through deception we wage war? They don't adhere to ceasefires. It's like putting food in front of your dog that's untrained and telling it don't eat it, and then you leave the room. What do you think it's gonna do? And it's hungry. That's Israel before a ceasefire. They don't adhere to it. So let's read this here. It says, U.S., Iran, Israel agree to 2-week ceasefire. Tehran will allow safe passage via Hormuz for 2 weeks. President Trump agrees to a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, conditional on them agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. And I think that they know that it's going to take more than the U.S., at least what Trump has touted, he cannot accomplish, okay, or they cannot accomplish for the monetary interests of the West and also the expansion Greater Israel Project interests of Israel. They can't accomplish that through a ceasefire. And they can't accomplish that by acquiescing to the demands that Iran wants, because what Iran wants is not going to work for their plans. So this is just, once again, another way to buy time, get, manipulate markets and get tensions to low to once again gain somewhat of an element of surprise. Because as tensions get very, very, very high, you gotta cool it down a bit. Okay? And you'll see over the coming days and weeks how this actually goes. But it's going to be very difficult, next to impossible, if not impossible, for them to say, okay, now everything is good, we're going to call it quits, because the agenda goes directly against whatever agreement they would have to come to with Iran. They can't have the control of the Strait of Hormuz if Iran says, no, we're going to have it. We're going to open it, but we're going to manage it. But in the U.S. says we want to manage it. How are you going to get their oil? They're just going to sit there and give that to you? So President Trump, I think we just read that. Iran accepts Pakistan's 2-week ceasefire proposal, which they say this was really because of China. Apparently, China, influenced Iran to say, look, just go ahead with it. So whatever they discuss behind the scenes, we'll find out through how things play out anyway. But keep in mind that I believe this is like the third official time they've tried to do this, go back to the negotiating table. And whenever you try to negotiate with Israel, it's not going to work. So we'll see. Maybe they might do something else that's going to really cause the Carmanians to come raging in wrath, as it says in 2nd Ezra 15. So Iran accepts Pakistan's 2-week ceasefire proposal with the deal approved by the new supreme leader. Iran also says safe passage via Hormuz possible for 2 weeks. Israel has reportedly agreed to suspend bombing while talks are ongoing. See that third point right there? That third point needs to be highlighted in red because that's a suspect. That's a suspicious point right there. Now, upon hearing this, you saw, markets were going, surging, oil was going down. I mean, investors were happy. People were, there's like they were holding their breath and then they could take that sigh of relief, right? But a lot of people know and understand, at least their better mind, their better judgment tells them that something is still wrong here. But they were in such a desperate and dire situation that they had to, acknowledge or blind themselves to an extent with some form of denial, right? You know what? No, it's okay. It's progress. It's better than nothing, and maybe we can still make it work here. Okay. So let's read a little bit of this here. It says, based on conventions with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent to Iran and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran, agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. I agreed to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. Really, the position they want to put themselves in is to be able to say, well, this is what they really want, right? They still want to go ahead with the bombing. They still want to go ahead with taking Iran out. But what they want it to look like is being justified in doing so, right? They want it to look like, well, we've been looked at as the bad guys for so long, but see, we were ready for a ceasefire some way, somehow. They just didn't want to continue on with the deal after they said they would make a deal, and now we have to go ahead with this. Right? That doesn't make you look so bad, right? Even though the world knows that you're still bad. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran. Very far along. All right, you got to pick out these words here. You're saying that a definitive agreement for long-term peace with Iran, you've made very, very good progress on. And peace in the Middle East. The only time peace will come to the Middle East is when Yahushua returns. Okay, when that prophecy is fulfilled. But up until that point, because then it's going to usher in the time of nations knowing war no more. But before that time, there's not going to be peace in the Middle East. The only peace in the Middle East is the pseudo-peace, as it says in 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, and the 3rd verse, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. Because according to the Heavenly Father's timeline, according to his plans, his determination, peace ain't in there right now. It's war. Okay? It's war. And for us that know this, right? Amos, was that 3 and 7? The Lord revealeth his secrets unto the servants of prophets. I think it's Amos 3 and 7. But the precept in Amos that says that, we know how the Lord works. So we follow prophecy through the lens of faith. We look at the things that are happening in the world, but the final, layer, the confirmation, what you go with, okay, we don't get cognitive dissonance when it comes to these things. Wait, but the prophecy says this, but we're seeing this happening here. Well, it doesn't matter, okay? We know that what we're seeing here eventually, one way or another, is going to lead and merge and coincide with what the scriptures say is going to happen. That's it. The secular events don't determine prophecy. Prophecy determines secular events. Simple as that. So it says here, we received, now this is interesting here, right? We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. So Iran says they want a complete end to the war. They said they want to get reparations. I mean, they said they want control over the Strait. They said they want you out of the Middle East and promise that you won't bomb them anymore. And they said that Lebanon should be included in here, right? But is that what the U.S. agreed to? Because what you're going to start to see, what you're already seeing now is, I agreed to this, and then the other side says, well, we agreed to this, and then so both sides have differing views on what point plan was agreed to. One says, no, the plan was that, blah, blah, blah. The other side says, no, the plan was that, blah, 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 because that's why we agreed. Trouble in paradise? On behalf of the United States of America as president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. These are talking points. Look at what Pete Hegseth said immediately after this. They know they're losing. You know, like Trump said in his speech, right? We're gonna win and win and win so much that you're gonna say, oh, we're tired of winning. We're winning too much. Please, it's too much. But what's happening is they're losing. They're losing so much. They're saying, please, this is too much. So they need any tiny, they'll turn an inch into a mile so they can come out with something and say, look, this is what we did. Boom. Hey, look, see, that's what because they're struggling. They need that. At least on the public opinion, the world opinion. Yeah. Let me, I just saw another breaking notification here. Let me go ahead and show that on screen as we continue in this lesson. 1 second. Yeah. Take a look at that once it loads. So, finishing this up here. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Additionally, CNN reports that Israel has agreed to suspend bombing while talks are ongoing. That's the 2-week period, right? Israel is a part of the 2-week ceasefire Trump agreed to just an hour and a half before his deadline, a senior White House official tells CNN. Israel has agreed to listen very closely. Israel has agreed to also suspend its bombing campaign while negotiations continue, the official said. Okay, so now let's take a look at this next one here. Tanker passage through Hormuz halted as Iran accuses Israel of ceasefire breach. I mean, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. Direct talks planned for Pakistan Friday. What's today? Today is Wednesday. That's what, about two days? 2 days from now? You know, a little over a day, 2 days from now. What things are moving so fast that Friday, which before that's just right there. That's literally, 2 days, 48 hours or something. But things are moving so fast that you wonder, like, will they even have talks? With the way things are, I mean, like I said, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. Iran is like, look, Paul, hold on, close that straight up again. Close that straight up again. Why? Because the same Israel that was reportedly going to halt their bombing campaigns, why are they being accused of violating or breaching a ceasefire that they agreed to? They wouldn't do such a thing. Go look at their track record. There's no way they would ever breach a ceasefire. There's absolutely no way. In fact, there's so little fear that Israel would breach a ceasefire that it made absolute sense to try and make a deal with him. Because that's not what they did the last time or the time before that when you tried to make a deal with them. It's not what they did about a year or two ago when you had a 12-day war with them. Absolutely not. No, definitely not. So it says here, the Hegseth Kane or / Kane presser, as expected, declared victory in Iran, while General, I think it should be General Kane, emphasized the ceasefire is a pause, but U.S. forces remain ready to resume combat. Listen to this and look at what they're doing. So what, they turned 2 B-2 bombers around. At least they said so. They said they turned them around. When you say your forces are remaining ready to resume combat, what you're saying is you don't have faith in this plan. Okay, this is a story for you to, one, have your justification for whatever you're gonna have to do next, or you're gonna claim you have to do next. But also, you have your and they said we're gonna hang around to make sure that Iran goes ahead with holds up their end of the bargain. So now it's like, I was a threat, right? This is just an example. I was a threat when I was outside your house, right? I was threatening you. I was throwing shit at your door. You would throw a few things back. We would threaten each other, right? Then I say, you know what? I'm about to blow up your whole house. You say, and then the mediators, everybody say, oh, chill. We don't got to do that. Why don't you all just talk? And so you say, okay, fine. I'm going to take the locks off my door. You could come on inside and take a seat. I'll give you a cup of tea and we can talk while you got your gun on you and then the rest of your men. So what happens when the talks go south? Well, I'm in a much better position now, aren't I? Because I'm in your house with my gun and my men with their guns. So now what? Anyway, Hegseth says military will be hanging around in Iran, won't go anywhere, and will make sure Iran complies. Pentagon is trying to put a blow on Operation Epic Fury. U.S.-Iran agreed to meet for first direct talks in Islamabad Friday. Pakistan, and there's some people in the IRGC, they got people in there that are very likely staunchly against this and are eager. They're like biting at the chops to say, I told you so, once this thing just fails. So Pakistan Prime Minister announces situation fragile, given that Iran is threatening to hit Israel again over IDF's massive Lebanon airstrikes. Wait a minute, they went and struck Lebanon after just making a deal? After reportedly agreeing not to continue bombing while the talks are going on? Israel would never do such a thing. Iran, meanwhile, demands stiff fees for ships passing through Hormuz. That is before they decided to close it. You have here first 2 ships since the ceasefire was announced have crossed the Strait of Hormuz. And you got a lot of people, a lot of different countries thinking, yes, this is good. Oh my gosh. No. Saudi Arabia's vital east-west oil pipeline carrying crude from the Gulf to the Red Sea for export has been attacked at a pumping station. So now let's take a look at a few of these tweets here, these X posts. So this is from Zero Hedge, right? A White House official said, this was today, April 8th at 8:07, that the 10-point peace plan that Iran publicly released on Wednesday differs from the plan that Trump said was a workable basis on which to negotiate. Oops. It's not like anybody could have seen something like this coming. No, not at all. The official declined to elaborate on the differences, but said Carolyn Levitt, whatever her name is, the White House press secretary, was expected to clarify at a 1 p.m. briefing. When you have a 10-point plan, you have a multi-point plan, the chances of 1 or 2 points being in there that one side says it shouldn't be in there, or the other side says that it should, and blah, 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 we don't agree with it, that goes up, okay? If it was just 1 point, you still have that problem. But now you have a 10 times greater chance of having that disagreement. So another post here. This is from the Insider. Well, you can see it, Insider paper. White House press secretary, once again, Caroline, tells Axios reporter, Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire agreement with Iran. I think Iran thinks otherwise. And that's probably why this post is here, saying Iran prepares retaliatory strikes on Israel over Lebanon ceasefire violations. Iran is preparing a retaliatory response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon, a source told Tasnim. Now, if this is true, like I said, that would have been a very quick ceasefire. Now, you can imagine that these countries that mediated before are still gonna try and say, hey, like, it's okay. Let's still calm it down. Let's have these talks. Let's not escalate back up to where we were before. But I mean, tensions are running pretty high. The U.S. might say, okay, fine. This is hypothetical. Fine, we'll stop attacking Lebanon. And then as they're saying that, Israel is going to go and bomb them again. See, Israel, they've now done a thing where it's like you negotiate with the U.S. and Israel is like the bad cop, right? Good cop, bad cop. And Israel is playing the role of making sure that it's impossible for any negotiations or deals to actually last. I mean, they're all on board with that, but it has to play that role. Iran is, we read that, it says the source warned that if ceasefire violations continue, Iran may cancel the 2-week deal and skip the planned talks in Islamabad. Well, I don't think that would come as a surprise, but we'll see, right? The Lord told us to watch. Remember, this is the Heavenly Father's movie. And the Heavenly Father, he doesn't like boring movies. He likes to spice things up. He likes to, the wow factor, the damn, the plot twist, yeah. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Okay, well, let's actually go into that word lie. So the vision, which we've been breaking down and telling you for years, it's speaking now, but it says it shall not lie. To disappoint, to fail, right? To be proven to be lying. So it says to be in vain. So the vision, which is according to what they saw, and we've broken down, meaning that when it happens, it's going to happen exactly as it was prophesied, as it was seen. Because that's what they saw. They saw the things that are happening and will happen in our very near future. So when you see these things that look like little deviations here, that's just the tarrying part. But you can see the points in between tarrying they've minimized so much now that, they come out with a so-called ceasefire and then boom, the next day, it's already breaking apart. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. All right. So we're at the point where these prophecies are no longer tarrying, and they are surely going to come to pass. The world will not escape this third world war. It will not escape the rest of the prophecies, the mark of the beast, the return of Yahushai, the detention of these nations. That's all prophesied to happen. And it's going to happen exactly as has been prophesied. So keep watching, because the Lord is definitely working. And remember, keep the faith. It takes faith to believe in prophecy. So we look at prophecy through the lens of faith, not, the wishful thinking of people in the world hoping, right, that they can somehow deviate from the course of prophecy. That's not how it works. It's never worked that way, and it's not going to start now. So I'm going to end it there. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.